Andy, couldn't you have more of a twinkle in your eye like your father?
More twinkle.
Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, 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 maybe, but yes.
Welcome back to podcast 43. I'm your host, Chris Borg, and we are joined by...
Fulton here. Great to be back. And
this is Cody. Welcome back, folks.
Cody, why do you sound like that? Why do you sound a little different?
Well, I sound a little different today, folks, because I'm on a mission, and on my particular mission, I'm not allowed to really be talking about what I'm doing, but I do not have access to what the children call the interweb. No interweb access, but I do have access to the cellular networks. So I have called into the podcast where we're going old school here, kind of, Howard Stern-esque.
you should have done that in a Judge
Up
Hardy
here.
voice.
Yeah, Steve Harvey's here. No, you said Hardy, not...
Yeah, sorry, I said Judge Hardy.
I confused the two. They're
Imagine
I think that would be actually the greatest film ever made.
Imagine if
Judge Hardy versus Judge Harvey, or just imagine one of these movies with Judge Harvey instead of Judge Hardy.
yeah,
That's my type of
It'd be
film.
pretty good.
and that how about
solid.
all 16 movies with Steve Harvey?
All 16.
Yeah. Yeah, this is actually kind of reminiscent of Love Finds Andy Hardy, because it's kind of like we're using it's like you're using like the ham radio, to communicate.
Yes, it is. And it's, of course, the three of us are all in different locations. I'm coming at us from the West Coast, Fulton down there in Georgia, and Chris over in the Carolinas, New York, all over the East Coast.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
We're covering America.
Yeah.
America is coming. You listen to these shows, and a lot of them are these coastal elites who don't know anything about the common man. But the three of us are really, we're really covering our tracks.
Yeah, we got all of our
The guy
bases
from
covered.
Los Angeles.
And another thing that the common man are watching right now is two Andy Hardy films. Love Finds Andy Hardy from 1938 and Out West with the Hardys, also from 1938, both directed by George B. Seitz.
What?
So yeah, the respective
The one guy that directs like 90%. He's so loyal.
You're telling me the guy who directed 14 of the 16 movies directed these two?
You're crazy.
I think it's also crazy, I guess, just like as connective tissue between these two. I mean, obviously they're all in the same franchise, but I think, yeah, so Judge Hardy's Children, Love Finds Andy Hardy, Out West with the Hardys were all released in 1938. I'm assuming Judge Hardy's Children was probably filmed at the tail end of 37.
Yeah.
And then put out. But it's insane that there were 3 of these in 1 year. But I guess there's really no better place to start than the first one with Love Finds Andy Hardy.
Yeah, it's just like The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions.
Or a contemporary reference would be Kevin Costner's Horizon saga.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man, I shouldn't say this, but I got a sneak peek of some promo for Horizon. It's gonna be sick.
Exciting. And
gonna be sick.
I know that Kevin Costner is gonna make a better Western than Out West with the Hardys. I can say that with like 100% certainty.
Oh my god, we'll get to that. Yeah, just so the listener knows, we're gonna be talking about 2 movies today, as opposed to the first episode where we talked about the first 3. We're talking about Love Finds Andy Hardy and Out West with the Hardys, and that's oh my god, we have a lot to talk about each of them.
So yeah. And I think getting starting with Love Finds Andy Hardy, I think I can safely say that this is the best Andy Hardy film that we've seen. I think I can speak for all of us and say that.
Speak your
Yes.
truth.
Exactly.
Speak, stand on that box, King, and shout.
And
This is it. This is a great one.
it breaks the formula a little bit, and that's really refreshing. It's it's really nice to see this this franchise with these characters that you've built a relationship with over the last three films do things that aren't just the same thing every time, like in the previous movies. There's no issues of Judge Hardy's reputation being on the brink of destruction. It's just a
Right.
nice slice of life film about Andy Hardy mostly. Like Andy Hardy
Yeah.
is the main character in this one, and it's him having to like deal with three different women, balancing the relationship with Polly, his of course girlfriend slash situationship
Yeah.
friend,
Present through all the films. Yeah.
and then there's also Cynthia, played by Lana Turner, and then there's Betsy, played by Judy Garland, who blows everybody out of the water in just being
What a
Completely.
best
performance
actress or actor in this film.
in any of the series. I would
Yeah.
say the best character so far. Like she
Mhm.
walks away with this movie.
100%. Yeah.
I will say that the small ways it does continue the formula. I know there's like it tends to feel like all of them open up with the court. All of them that we've watched so far, I should clarify, open up with a court scene. And I have a theory that it feels a little bit more solid with the next one, but I feel like these opening courtroom scenes kind of they introduce a problem that will kind of introduce the audience to the core theme of the film.
Yes.
With Love Finds Andy Hardy, I don't remember the specifics of the courtroom scene, but I think like
Well, it was
that
the
is
kid, the ham radio kid.
I thought he stole a
Who becomes
car.
He did. He went joyriding in his dad's car,
That's
and
right.
and he got punished for destroying a farmer's crops and his
Yeah.
tractor.
And then every single time in the courtroom, he gets interrupted. The Judge Hardy gets interrupted and has to be taken and given exposition for some other event. And then, but yeah, no, I just off the opening, I'm noticing an underlying pattern between a lot of these.
And this one, the story is just gangbusters because it is like you were saying, Chris. It's much lower stakes in terms of there is no financial ruin coming. There is no reputation on the line. There isn't even any really drama with the family, with the exception of the mother having to return to grandma who has fallen ill. That's the most, dramatic part of the film. Kind of rests on that character arc. But the real crux of this movie is Andy Hardy having to juggle these three women. And it's endlessly amusing. Like it's a very, very funny. This is probably the best Andy Hardy or Mickey Rooney as Andy Hardy has been thus far into the series because he really leans in to this sort of like toxic male, immature, horny little teenager in a way that is just unprecedented for the rest of these movies. Even on the vacation film, it's at new heights here. There's so much to learn from this particular film that you really can't find in the other three that we've seen so far. I'm just excited to dive into this.
Yeah, no, it's really funny how Andy there's so many jokes in this that actually like made me laugh, which I was surprised about because
The Big Apple reference.
he loves talking about the Big Apple, which I did mention in the previous episode as being a highlight of Judge Hardy's children. But also that quote where he says, "I'm older than my years. It must have been Washington that done it." Such a good little reference to the previous film when he's like explaining his maturity or like saying something really pompous. But yeah, I completely agree, Cody, about how well Mickey Rooney plays Andy Hardy in this, and it's also really great that they give Judy Garland multiple chances to sing in this. Like she sings in the middle of the film and then she sings two songs at the end, which is like also a first for the series because there's really no other musical moments in any of the other previous films other than like just people dancing to music, like in that Big Apple scene.
Right. Yeah. No. It's completely different in terms of form, and we actually get. I think for the first time in these series, we have the Judy Garland character has scenes of her own apart from the Hardy family.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
these particular scenes add so much to this character. And her character, she plays this. How old did you? I thought she was around 12.
I
That's what
think
the
they said
like
12.
12 or 13.
12,
Yeah.
13. Judy Garland, I think, was older than that at the time. Because I know her and Mickey Rooney were roughly the same age, right?
Mhm.
Or around the same age. But she's supposed to be playing someone 3 or 4 years younger than Andy Hardy, who's visiting her grandmother, who lives next door to Andy Hardy over the Christmas holidays.
Yeah, and she's like
And
she knows all about Andy Hardy. Like she's heard about him
She's
through her
seen the
grandmother.
movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's seen him. She's immediately charmed and attracted to Andy Hardy. The story of this one really, like, to just kind of narrow it down, is Andy Hardy is dating Polly. Polly is leaving for a couple weeks for the Christmas vacation to go on a trip with her family. While she's gone, there's going to be this big dance in town, and Andy Hardy is saying, while you're gone, I'm not going to date anyone. I'm going to remain single and go stag to the party. But while this is all happening, he wants to purchase a new car. And this car requires a $20 down payment. And Andy Hardy only has $12. You got to get the payment in by December 23rd. So what happens? He's going to try and find some more work to do. Just so happens his buddy Mike is going to, I think his name's Mike, right?
It was like Beezy.
Oh, yeah.
Beezy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Mike. It's Beezy. Why am I thinking Mike? It's Beezy. Beezy's girl. Yes. Beezy is going to go on vacation with his family. Also, not with Polly, separate. And while Beezy's gone, he's got the hots for this girl, Cynthia. And he's telling Andy, hey, while I'm gone, I want you to date Cynthia. So that way, when I come back, I can date her and you can, fight off all the other guys who want to take her to the dance. Well, Andy Hardy initially refuses, but then realizes this is a potential moneymaker, charges Beezy $8 to do this act to save Beezy's girl from the other guys. And of course, this is pretty ridiculous. They end up dating, relationship follows, then a bunch of other shenanigans happen. And by the end of it, it's just a hilarious mess. This is probably my favorite scene of Andy Hardy having to go to his father, Judge Hardy, excuse me, not Judge Harvey, Judge Hardy, and apologize and ask for advice about the problem that he's gotten himself into, because now he's having to fight off the love of 3 different women who all love him in very different ways and who he loves for different reasons. And the Judy Garland character is the most heartbreaking because he never sees her as anything but a child, which is probably a good thing. There's one thing about this movie, like you watch it with today's lens and you're like, well, you probably shouldn't be a 17-year-old dating a 13-year-old. It's just not very socially acceptable these days. And I think it's actually good that the movie does not let it happen there. But the movie does have you feel for Judy Garland's character of not being taken seriously in a romantic way, but not even in a romantic way, in a way of like she is not viewed as an adult. It's not even that she's not viewed in a romantic setting or in a loving setting. She's just not viewed as anything but a child. And that's what's frustrating to her.
He doesn't
Because
believe
she
in
is
her
someone
at all. Like when
no,
she's
at all.
like when she's about to
Anyway.
sing at the end, when he takes her to the Christmas dance as a date, because his date with Polly and Cynthia falls through, like he's like, are you sure you want to do this? Like he doesn't believe that she's like even good enough of a singer
Good enough for that. He's always embarrassed about it. And like, yeah, it's heartbreaking because that's what really tugs at your heartstrings, is that her characters just struggle to be seen, or as she says, to have glamour, to be able to, because she has this tremendous talent and no one in this town is paying any attention to her because of her age. Until the end of the movie, and we realize, oh, wait a minute, she's actually, an incredible performer. It's a nice twist, and she ends up getting kind of the last laugh in this movie. But those scenes are heartbreaking when she's constantly getting rejected by Andy, not just even in a yes, in a romantic way because she doesn't want to go to the dance, but just in a matter of like he is not treating her as anything but a way to help him secure Cynthia or secure his car.
I get on a slight side note, just because we're briefly talking about the Christmas dance, we're introduced to Dennis, who seems to be a new love interest for Marion, the Hardy sister. So that's just a new addition to the series that we're seeing develop while we're watching. Yeah, no, but I I completely agree, and I think that it's really interesting how like it's not a musical, but it's definitely like playing with being a musical, because like whenever she breaks out into, whenever she starts singing a song, it's always like narratively justified. So like the first time we see her play her tune, it's because I think her grandma tells her to practice.
Yeah.
But it's because it definitely does feel like a musical in the sense that like the songs are so perfectly tapping into the emotions that her character is feeling at the time, but then it's also so well acted by Judy Garland as well.
Yeah.
And she just brings a whole nother dimension to the lyrics. Like in particular, I'm thinking of that when she's practicing at the piano, and it's like she's kind of just like diddling around, and then it starts to take shape on the piano, and then it might be a cover, I'm not sure. I don't know the specific origins of that song, but she's kind of talking about being caught in between of and just like caught in between of kind of being too young but not old enough, and so it's interesting the way the sound sequences.
That's a great song.
Yeah.
I thought that whole sequence was done exceptionally, and she's got such a killer voice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that I don't know the origins of that song either. I'd like to learn because it's really, really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, but it's also heartbreaking, and it's just amazing. It's amazing to see Judy Garland like this. It's such a wonderful jolt into the series to have her, and I think we get her a couple more movies down the road.
Yeah, she's in 2 other movies.
She's gonna
that's
return,
good to hear.
So, which is exciting because I know before we started recording, we were a little worried after. Well, we're about to talk about the next movie, about where the future of this series could be heading. But it's great to know that she's coming back. I also, I don't want to spoil it, but I did read a spoiler about one of the later Hardy movies that's going to use a lot of these characters are going to come back in a very interesting way, which is exciting.
I mean, Cody. I was just gonna say with what you were saying about actually seeing her perspective, I think that is something that should be more utilized in the series going forward. Obviously, they've already been made, but yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. My bad, buddy.
No, you're good. You're good. No, that's totally true. Like that is like, yeah, we absolutely should. I mean, I think this was the most successful Hardy film up until this point. So I
I
think they
believe
definitely took
so.
notes about. They certainly, I mean, with Judy Garland on the docket to return, they're definitely going to hopefully return to some of this formula because
Yeah.
it's great. And I also think as we said earlier, this movie works so much better because the stakes are so much lower. And
Mhm.
when we have it's so much more interesting to think about not stupid property or like the fucking water coming to town and the damn, judge shit that has to kind of come into these movies. This one, the drama that the judge and the family are dealing with is related to the mother and her relationship to the grandmother or her mom. Mama Hardy and Grandmama is pretty moving. And
Yeah.
there's
I
a
mean,
really you were talking about the courtroom scene at the beginning. The
mhm,
way that this comes around on that is
mhm.
really effective,
It's
and
such a sweet
actually
scene.
it's so sweet. This feels like this is the type of movie that like you would show your kids, and you would like this is the type of movie I would believe was a massive hit in the 30s and the 40s. This is
Yeah.
the type of film that like you would like that you would watch as a kid and be like, you'd show your grandchildren as an old timer and be like, this is what it was like, and you would be like, oh my god, I love this movie. It's almost like like You Can't Take It With You or something, like a Frank Capra movie or something. It's excellent, and yeah, the radio sequence is really really moving. I think it's really well done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just to build off that, viewing this series as a peek into like, white mainstream, like American life. Obviously, it's a product, right? So, I mean, it's very
Oh yeah.
controlled and manipulated, but I do like that, like, we're kind of seeing the slow, like, modernization of America through this film. I mean, just with the ham radio and the cars, and I love that there's a little scene, I think it's like outside of the auto repair shop where Andy Hardy and Judge Hardy are just looking up at an airplane, and they're just kind of reflecting on kind of how things have changed with modernization and everything, which is, I think, plays an equally important, like, in terms of plot development, and out west with the Hardys as well. There's a few things in there that I wanted to talk about, but we'll
Like
get to that.
like in the ham radio scene. So
Yeah.
to background for people that are listening that haven't been watching Andy Hardy movies with us, uh
Probably all of you.
probably everyone. There's this, yeah, no,
I
I
don't
don't
think
blame
there's a
them.
single listener who might have seen these. Maybe. But we'll see.
Well, hopefully we're inspiring them to
Hopefully
we'll help them, sift through
our
this series.
our 65 plus demo though that listens may have a counterpoint to your observation, Cody.
Hey there, Cody. I did see Andy Hardy.
Now,
I
this is
love
my
Andy
favorite
Hardy.
Andy Hardy.
But the ham radio scene
Andy
is
Hardy, go to the polls.
um but the point the scene is that Judge Hardy wants to reach out to Mrs. Hardy but doesn't know how because Mrs. Hardy's grandmother or mother is in a coma at her childhood farm up in Canada, and they don't really have a phone there, so they use a ham radio to reach out to somebody in the area to send them basically like a message and to get a message back to just check in on her to make sure that she's okay. And it's just like he's just Judge Hardy's just in complete awe of like this technology and
Mhm.
what they're able to do with it. And on top of that, just them talking about how they can't contact this farm because they don't have a phone line is but that is like was like it made me really reflect on these movies because at the time that was not that uncommon. Like I know it was Canada, but like in a lot of rural parts of America too, that was also something that they didn't really have access to at the time. And so it's just interesting as a byproduct of that time in America.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I guess all I really have to say about this movie that I haven't brought up yet is the polygamy name drop was pretty funny. Like to hear like
Yeah.
Andy Hardy be like, yeah, maybe polygamy is not that bad or because he's juggling all these
Yeah.
girls with with poly relationships really taking off now according to a lot of lifestyle writers in New York Magazine and such in 2024.
I
And
wonder if Andy Hardy would use Field. Do you think he would in like today's day and age?
I think Andy Hardy
You
would
think
use
he would?
Field.
Is Andy Hardy ethically non-monogamous? I don't know. The
Well,
argument here,
if the
this movie
titles of
kind
the
of
further
argues against.
films,
Yes,
know,
he does.
if
It
those
does
are any
suggest
indication.
that he is not a fan of the monogamy.
Yeah.
But this one is interesting because there's a great line when he says to his dad, he goes, "Can you love two women at the same time?" And this line was really interesting because it unfolds that he only really likes Cynthia because she's always down to kiss him. And he likes Polly because they can go swimming and play tennis and do all this. But Polly often doesn't let him kiss him, or he has to really earn the kiss.
It's so funny that he talks about everything in reference to kissing. Like it's so quaint.
And then what's even more shocking is Judge Hardy
Yeah.
just says, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Can you like two women at one time? Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
I don't
He
remember
goes
what he
in.
said, if I'm being honest. It was just a
Yeah,
bit.
no, Judge says, yes, you can, son, as long as you're ethical. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, wow. That's bad advice. Well, it depends on where you stand. I'm sorry. I shouldn't judge.
It depends on where you. I mean, it's interesting. It's anticipating where we're at.
It's very
where we're at
different
today.
from what I view, what I would think he would think. I guess it
Well,
would surprise me.
Another amazing thing about this movie, and I remember my grandmother used to tell me this. She would say, like, when she was in school, you would go out with somebody, but you were never exclusive with anybody unless you were married. So, like, up until you got married, you would still go on dates with other people. You would even kiss other people, not
That's
necessarily sleep with
nuts.
them. But that was
We've
like
become more
common in
conservative
high school.
and then loosened back up.
Absolutely. The amount, and it's not even like, yeah. I mean, I know we're pretty young guys. We went through college together. Obviously, college kids still view. I mean, hell, high school, middle school, college kids. You're dating someone, you're exclusive. You go on a date with somebody else while you're dating someone, it's over. You cheated. That does not seem to be the case in these films. It is kind of understood that unless you are married, if the person is gone for 2 weeks, you can date somebody else. Why not date somebody else?
Well, it's like,
The
it's
body
weird
needs what it
because
needs.
Marion gets mad at Wayne for cheating, but then when she was seeing Wayne, she had the DC trip, she had the
vacation.
Catalina, or I forget where they went.
When they went to the island. Yeah,
So
that's
it's
a
weird.
good point because and they're a little older, so I wonder if it's saying when you get older it changes, but certainly, like, you know.
Can we call your grandma Cody?
What she we're gonna need to get a a Ouija board for that.
Oh my God,
Oh.
I'm so sorry, Cody. I'm very
No,
sorry.
it's okay. No, it's okay.
Well, maybe we should
I
just
mean,
interview. We
here's
should
the
take a
thing.
poll. We should go on Facebook and maybe take a poll
Yeah,
of
let's
of older
get that
views.
poll and see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah. I think we can get. I know a couple psychics. We
we
can,
get yeah we get.
hereafter mode on Grandma. We can see.
I would love I would love to ask I would love to ask my grandparents this question, and my great grandmother too.
Well,
So,
that's what's wild though, is because like so my grandparents, when they met and then they got in a relationship, they were older. They were like in like 2019, like not the year 2019. They were like 20 years old and 19 years old.
uh-huh.
But like you talk to these people in the South, or like a lot of grandparents, these kids get together when they're 13, 14, and they stay. Like they just ride that till they die.
Yeah.
Which still happens. I mean, we're from the South. That happens all the time in the South. Kids start dating at 12. These kids end up married and build a life off that. It's like one and done. That happens all the time, especially in the Bible Belt.
Mhm.
I feel like that's we're kind of going away from that. I don't think that's necessarily a healthy way to seek a life partner, is by, hey, you live down the street from me, I live down the street from you. Why not live together? Like that's a pretty
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't allow you to be like
boom.
outside of your comfort zone too at all. Like,
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's very, and especially when you're dating that young. I mean, that's kind of what these movies have kind of been interesting. It's like you're still developing as a person. And yes, dating does kind of help you develop yourself. Like the more you date, the more you have relationships with people, the more you understand how you are in a relationship and what you need in a relationship. But at the same time, if you're like 9 and you're dating someone, I don't see the benefit in that. Like that's insane. Like I don't know. Now we're kind of going off on a tangent here.
No,
But it's
no,
like
no. It's good though.
the mass dating that's happening in Andy Hardy is ultimately a good thing for Andy Hardy. But if you did that today, you would be canceled. Like you would this Andy Hardy would be canceled
Andy
on
Hardy
TikTok.
Andy Hardy's
He'd be
like
doxxed.
Andy Hardy love bombs too many people in Carvel.
On so many people. The amount of cyberbullying that would happen to this little person is so extreme. I mean, it would be over. The memes would be so harsh. I mean, it would be. Did you see that movie Spirited? Did anyone see that from a couple of years ago? The Will Ferrell, Ryan
No, I
Reynolds,
didn't
Christmas
I didn't see
musical.
Spirited. No.
Oh my God! There's like when they go to like, because it's a Christmas Carol, when they go to like the future. Spoilers for Spirited. Anyone listening, they don't care.
Everyone just
When they go
clicked
to the
out of the
future,
video.
yeah, no, we instantly we're gonna like look at the graphs of our listens. Why at this timestamp did everyone leave? When they show him like the ghost of like Christmas future, he was telling his like niece that she needed to dox the person who's running against her to be student president because he made a joke about homeless people. And in the Ghost of Christmas Future shows him that kid commits suicide because
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
social backlash. They're like 10. They're like 10 years old. Like they're really young in the movie. To a point where you're like, what? And that would happen to Andy Hardy. That's all I'm saying. It's like Andy Hardy would not be able to handle it. His dad's a judge. They would go after his judge like he's a federal prosecutor. I mean, I don't even want to analyze Judge Hardy probably has put a lot of people behind. Do you think Judge Hardy ever sentenced someone to death?
Well,
I
no,
don't know. This might be. I think
he said something about that in Out West with the Hardys. He says like a slippery slope, and you can end up in a noose here. If you mess up
something to
badly
that
enough.
effect.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, right, because isn't that towards the beginning, or is that
yeah. It's at the
am I
beginning. It's
misremembering?
the opening
Yeah, right
courtroom
with
scene.
that opening is crazy. I think this is a good. Well,
well,
does anyone have anything to say about Love Finds Andy Hardy before we move on?
Other than like, I really like this movie. I think people should watch it. You don't need to watch the other Andy Hardy movies to really enjoy this movie.
Perfect entry point.
Yeah,
Perfect
Chris,
entry
they
point,
have
yeah.
to know who Wayne is.
Yeah,
They've got to
they
go through it, man. They if
Yes,
they're going to
and
be
I
so
guess it does help.
confused.
I mean, it does help knowing that Polly's his long-term partner.
Lame. Yeah.
And I mean, she's literally named Polly. I'm thinking about this now. Like that's pretty amazing. That he's Polly, he's dating Polly. And yeah, that's pretty. I also, last thing I'll say, and we can talk about Out West too. It is amazing how these films are connected. Like they do reference the last film. Like that,
Yes.
it is all canonical.
for sure.
Like, it is all part. It is MCU Hardyverse. It is a thing. It is real. It's legit.
It's tight.
Which is crazy. Although we're done with the aqueduct. Like, we're done with the water shit.
I don't know, Cody. We can
Just coming
do
back.
well,
The
I
dam's
think
gonna break.
Out West it's like it gives me aqueduct echoes. Like I legitimately thought he was about to say it at any moment.
Yeah, they were the writers.
There were a couple moments I was like, is he gonna say it?
Because it's still water related, you know? So I was like, I see what they're
Yeah.
doing here. They're not saying it, but I know what they're doing.
Do you
Yeah.
think like when they wrote it, they were like they had it in there initially, and then like the producer was like, "We can't do this again, guys." Like,
Yeah.
this
MGM
is the
put their
third
foot
time.
down.
Like we can't keep going back. They're literally going back to the well, like the literal well, the water, the body of water that they pull from. Oh my God, pull so much.
Oh yeah.
Water.
I guess just to I'll just say I echo 100% what Chris was saying. So I'm all ready to discuss Out West if y'all are.
Out West with the Hardys, such a regression for this for this film franchise, where we are going back to the old ways, where it's all about the Hardy family. They go somewhere, and then Judge Hardy's entire livelihood and the Hardys' livelihood is completely threatened by some decision, and then they have to save it at the end. But it's like they go out west because Judge Hardy's ex-girlfriend, who's like married now, she needs help with something, and they go out to this ranch that they own in Arizona because they're having some territorial disputes with this really rich landowner in the area that wants to buy their land so he can use it, and he's like forcing them to sell it. Anybody that has watched like any like at least westerns in America, well, is like familiar with this type of western plot line. Like it's very, very standard. The only thing that differentiates it from those westerns is like those are like about like actual cowboys, and like there's like exciting things going on, which Out West with the Hardys does not really have going for it.
I don't know. He's figuring out the frontier of love. You know, he's traversing it. He's trying to figure it out. You know,
He is. He's rustling up the feelings for the ladies. I don't know.
Polly again.
This is such. I can't echo Chris enough here about how regressive this is. Like, this is just so. Like this is by far the worst one I think I've seen so far. Like it's
Agreed.
not even. It feels lazy. It feels just so kind of thrown together. The stuff that is compelling is just so minor compared to the rest of the film. Like I literally watched this film a few hours ago. I'll be honest. Watched it like 4 or 5 hours ago. And I am struggling to recollect the story because it's so horrible. Like it's so nothing. I don't understand why they had to go to this ranch, what the significance of the ranch is, how this ranch is going to like make or break them financially. How is this family always on the verge of financial like destruction? Can
They're
anyone explain
No,
this
he
to
no,
me?
no, no, no. It's so stupid that
I
he
do have a
like
theory, but
he
I will go out later.
he
Sorry.
wants to help. He wants to help this longtime friend of his. Judge Hardy wants to help her.
Yes,
And he
lives there.
confides in his wife and says, I am going to spend all of our money on buying this land that's next to their ranch so I can use it to leverage against the wealthy businessman that's trying to that's trying to force them off of their land. And his wife is like, that sounds like a great idea. You are like, I'm behind you 100%.
God, I
And
didn't even register that was this conversation. Like
Well, I
I
do
understood he
think
bought the land, but I couldn't understand that it was for the. Oh my!
he
That's
was
a
like,
dumb idea. How are you gonna? These are the wealthiest people in the world. Like,
there is a small trend of like either he's like kind of sticking his neck out for the everyman or sticking his neck out because he thinks it's justified and this is the way justice should be like dealt with.
oh, but Fulton, another thing
Mhm.
that makes that point, like I agree that that was the angle that they were going for, but what completely mitigates that point is the fact that the
Mhm.
person that owns that land is an indigenous person.
Oh yeah. I
And
mean,
they're
like,
yeah, and
I
they're
guess
like,
we should have
yeah,
addressed that
yeah.
the film is incredibly problematic in its representation of small comments about Black and African American people, but also about Indigenous people as well. There's a lot of lines that just well, they should have never been
yeah,
put down in the first place. They weren't good back. There's no justifying them. I'm not trying to make it sound like I am, but um yeah, I don't know. Like with the beginning, just to backtrack just a tiny bit, I do think like again that courtroom scene kind of sets up the whole film and introduces like the themes of like letting your ego get to your head and then also like with don't let your ego get to your head but also don't be impulsive, which we see both the um Andy Hardy children deal with in their own way. um and I do get that it does feel like a regression. I really only like it is a problematic film. For some reason I liked the stuff that they do with Jake's character and with the horse, and I feel like I actually felt like the lesson that Andy was supposed to learn was like emotionally conveyed to me in ways that I hadn't really been attached to in the previous films. Again, it's still a problematic film, but I found the latter half more compelling, but it's still pretty I don't know. It's really weird. It's really thorny too. So it's not like a clean cut film in the ways the other ones are.
Yes, yes. And on top of that, I mean, I agree with what you said about Jake, who is this tomboyish younger girl that is the daughter of this ranch hand that Marion, Andy Hardy's sister, takes a liking to and wants to marry him. I'll go into that in a minute. Um, but uh, Jake has this horse, and Andy Hardy doesn't know how to ride a horse properly, and it's a reoccurring bit throughout the film. And then eventually he hurts the horse, and the horse almost dies. And it's this very emotional scene where Jake is crying about her horse and how she can't imagine not being with her horse, and it's like I don't know. It's pretty the way that it's shot with like these close-ups and everything. I think it's like definitely the high point of the film from a
Mhm.
film style perspective, and also just for something that's interesting that hasn't happened in like four of these other fucking movies. Uh, um,
There's another scene near the end when Andy Hardy's having to make just on the terms of film style that's like something different and something
mhm.
interesting. Like I've only noted one other thing like technologically that I thought was interesting with the series. And
Yeah.
so this is such a simple thing too, but he's like having to be quiet. He's going to call Polly after he gets back. This is near the end of the film and he like grabs a chair and he puts the coat over and he's like hunched down on the floor, and it's like a slow slow moving towards him. I found that so satisfying because really, like, it's pretty classically shot, I'd say, with a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot of interesting stuff happening within the film style. So just to ride home that point, but yeah, what you were saying.
But yeah, like it's just another one of those Andy Hardy movies where Marion, she just like she sees somebody that like is like just a little attract like that is just conventionally attractive and is nice to her, and she's like, I am going to marry him. And so for this film, it's God, I don't even remember his name.
I feel like it's also Wayne, but I know that's not true. He just looks like a Wayne.
Yeah, okay,
And
so
I think
well,
John Wayne too, but you know.
well, because
That
she
would
had
have been fitting.
she has
Yeah.
it. What it's Dennis, right? No, Jake. No.
Dennis is the new love interest
Oh yeah,
that
Dennis.
gets introduced in Love Finds Andy Hardy.
Sorry, it's Ray. Yeah, Ray, played by Gordon Jones. She's like, I want to marry him. That's but she has a boyfriend again. And it's just very strange because it's like I feel like she says this stuff, but it's like she's never like really serious about it because it's like you're like visiting somewhere. It's not even like you're at like home. At least with like Wayne, there's like, something more going on there because he was like she was in her hometown. Um, they had something going. I don't know. I don't know why I'm psychoanalyzing this, but it just really frustrates me because it's just more of the same old Andy Hardy
Yeah.
themes. But
Yeah, I don't even know what to add there. It's such a dull. It's familiar in all the wrong ways. It's just like I really lose interest with the sister in this film. I mean, I guess it is within the string of all these movies, like we were saying, like Andy Hardy is kind of the most interesting part of this movie. The stuff with the horse is pretty emotional. There is a great moment when he's talking about his dog that he loves. And then of course the way that he runs away and comes back in the end, pretty good. I think the ending of this is not very satisfying in a way that, the earlier films have those great zingers at the very end. And this one, the zinger at the end is pretty pathetic. And the reunion with Polly is it leaves a lot to be desired for. Compared to what happened with Judy Garland in the last movie.
oh yeah.
The worst in this movie to me is that there is this. We talked about the Western theme. This does not have a Western feel much at all. There's some good shots here. There's that. I love the shot of Jake and Hardy riding on the donkey after she finds him in the canyon. That's very pretty. There is some scope occasionally, but for the most part, this is a very underused Western theme. There isn't any amazing set piece that really takes place at all in this movie. There's no real tension. Like, was anyone invested in whether or not the ranch was going to work or if they were going to go under? Or like that was boring to me.
No.
Like I completely checked out. I was like, what? Why? Why would we do this? Like,
even when he's like even when
there's no.
God. I was gonna say, even when Andy Hardy like abandons everybody and is wandering through the desert, they shot it very clearly on a soundstage at the MGM lot, and so it like lacks any of that scope or scale, and it's just so boring.
Absolutely. It's
boring.
It's dull. It's I don't. Is there even a Western town in this movie?
I don't think so.
No. It's just
I don't think they do anything fun like that.
I thought this was going to be like a, hustling fun, even like a Gene Autry type movie from the poster. I mean, there's so much potential. Andy Hardy goes west. The Hardys are out west.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Let me see these guys on a horse. I mean, it's kind of funny he keeps falling off the horse. it's funny the first 2 times, not the 200 times.
Yeah.
And he's got to write a jackass. How funny! Like it's just lazy. It's lazy. It's dull. It's not doing anything interesting with the genre it's trying to work in. And I above all these other ones, it's just boring. It's worth. I know we talked about it a little bit. Like the opening scene, the courtroom scene, is maybe the most interesting of any of the opening courtroom scenes we've seen yet. I'll give that movie this.
Yeah.
It's that grown adult man who's just won the lottery but was driving intoxicated and driving a bus. Is that right?
Yeah, I
He
was gonna
drove
say
a
I thought
bus?
he stole a bus and he's like, you held
That's
16 people
insane.
captive.
Yeah.
I'd like to see
It's
that
actually
movie. Andy Hardy hangs out with that
Yeah.
drunk lottery guy.
The guy wins $2,000, which let me do some quick math here. 2,000 US dollars from 1938 into today's money. That's an exceptional sum of money. Like $2,000, 1938.
Oh, that's like $44,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It's the amount of money that makes you want to steal a bus. You know?
Yeah, wants to.
Well, I'll be real. If we won $44,000, like if I won $44,000, that's a lot. I would be ecstatic. I'm not gonna get drunk and steal a bus. Like that's
Yeah.
a little. Look, $2,000. I'm not like shading. I'm not like shading 40. Like that's great. You won a lot of money. That's a lot of good money. Some people say like it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. That's a good sum. A lot of people don't even make that in a year. That's a great, great. But gonna get drunk and steal a bus because I won $44,000 and hold people captive. And then he's got to pay $100 of that. That's like paying $5,000 of the $44,000.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
it's. I mean,
Yeah.
it is.
Not a
Free him. Hashtag
Yeah,
free.
hashtag.
He was just having fun.
It ties into the themes of just because Andy Hardy he letters and like varsity for basketball at the beginning of this, and he's just like really mean to everyone.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I do love the parallels that are drawn. It's like, getting a varsity letter and acting like a dick is like the same thing as like winning the lottery and holding people
Kidnapping
hostage.
60 people on a bus while drunk. That I can't stop thinking about what those writers must have thought when they're like, okay, we have, because this is, I think, the first time we've seen an adult on trial with Andy Hardy at the beginning. I don't think we've seen. I think they've all been
Maybe the
boys for
aqueduct
this long.
stuff. I can't remember in the
Yeah.
first
Yes,
movie.
the very first one. I think you're right. That is an adult courtroom. But
Mhm.
everyone else is always a child. It's always like a younger boy. The
Yeah.
boys were out protesting. That's the dumbest thing we don't need to go back into that. But
Yeah.
this one is like, it is creative in a way that is like, I mean, I've been watching some of Twin Peaks again recently. Like this is some shit that would happen in Twin Peaks. Guy
Yeah.
wins the lottery and kidnaps a bus. Like it's so strange, and like the way that that's happening is really, really interesting.
I guess on that note, does anybody else have anything to say about Out West with the Hardys?
I do have, I think, maybe like two more things. I do love, there's a scene where I think it's Paulie. Yeah, I think it's Paulie and Andy are at the pool. Yeah. Because Andy's like, watch me, I'm gonna jump off the 20 feet thing. And she's like, no, you don't. No, don't go do that. And then he does it, and then they have a little spat right outside, or right next to the pool. And I swear he gives like a half turn to the camera and says, well, I'm America's gift to the fair sex. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That was
a
a
good
good bit.
bit.
That was like the best
That guy was
one.
pretty funny.
Yeah. And then really it's just like I think again, just building off what we were talking about with the previous one, but with modernization kind of playing a more heavier role in this film, because early on there's a scene where kind of the power goes out in the house and everyone freaks out. But like at this point, obviously they'd had electricity, but they weren't where we were now, where we've lived our whole lives with it. You know, to these characters, there was a point in time where they didn't have electricity, at least the older generation. So I thought that was interesting how like quickly they had become reliant, obviously, because it's you know, such a nice amenity that we have in our life. But just simple things like power and electricity, and how much it had already altered their lives in that way.
Yeah.
And then also there's a scene where near the end, um you know, where Judge Hardy and Mrs. Hardy kind of crack, they find a solution to their problem, and he's like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to tell them, I'm not going to have enough time to drive. And then Mrs. Hardy's like, oh, well, why don't you just call? But I like that his first thought isn't even to use a phone. Like he because he's growing right now, you know, even as an older man, and learning to use technology. I like that, you know, the old ways are still his. That's what his mind goes to first, you know, like driving and telling them
Yeah.
that, not calling them.
Mhm.
That's really all. I mean, really, like my final thoughts, just I felt like the lesson was earned in this one. Whereas in previous ones it felt like a plot convenience, and for good measure, but I felt like I actually felt the emotions of this lesson learned, and that's really the only redeeming quality I think I could say about this film, because it is, like I said, thorny and problematic at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think if I watched it again and focused solely, if I could just kind of tune out the whole branch of it all, I think I would be close to what you're feeling. But I just found myself so enraged by that particular plot that the emotion, while I can see it hitting at times, it didn't quite work for me.
I can't blame y'all.
But
I'll
I
say
think
that too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's I respect it. It's interesting, and I can't believe I said this. You saying this almost makes me want to watch it again. I might have to return.
It might be
Well,
some time for me for this one, but you know, if I
I think we
do.
should do this every year. I think we should just every year.
Oh,
everyone.
that would be interesting.
Yeah, it's
Let's do it for the Patreon.
Yeah, Andy Hardy every year. Well, did you hear about Andy Hardy X Kong X Godzilla?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I did hear on that one.
I
You
hope
know, I was
Godzilla's
reading
on
about
trial, and that's how
So
they
you
introduce the
know
main theme.
oh, yeah, you know, out here in California, we don't have. You all know the burger joint Hardee's. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in California, it's called Carl's Jr. It's not called Hardee's. And they did that because it used to be called Hardee's. But when Andy Hardy became so popular, people started thinking that the burgers were related to the film. And they would get really disappointed because, you know, there wasn't any, like, anything to do with Andy at Hardee's.
There was no Judge
And
Hardy
because
burger.
Carl's Jr.
And
But
because
here's the thing. This is, oh, go for it.
I was gonna say, because you're in Los Angeles and everything is movie related, it was so it was so
Right.
confusing.
It was confusing. People thought that, and then the Hardy boys came in. It was the whole thing.
And
But
then
they
the
changed it to
scrapped
Carl
movie,
Jr.
Andy Hardy eats a hamburger. That just threw everything even out
that was
farther.
gonna be a tie-in, and that was the whole thing. And then Andy Hardy goes in and out, and people.
But they had already changed it to Carl's, so then it didn't make any sense. Yeah.
But the problem is now, you know, in the '80s we get the director Carl Franklin comes along, and great filmmaker, and he has fans, but he doesn't have like a ton of fans. But I've heard of cases where, you know, big fans like myself even, you know, oh, Carl Franklin Jr. Maybe it's Carl Franklin hit, or maybe Carl Franklin isn't Jr. I didn't know. I go in and there's no Carl Franklin. There's none of it. There's none of the episodes he's shot of the leftovers. There's none of that. Where is Devil in the Blue Dress? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand these restaurant names. It's very confusing to the cinephiles. If you're gonna give someone's name on your restaurant, you can't do that in Hollywood. That's
The
not
web
too
goes
much about
deep.
a movie.
No, you
That's
can't.
why Hart's House is so popular, because it's Kevin Hart. He owns the vegan thing. That makes sense.
And
Do more of
Wahlburgers.
that.
Well,
Wahlburgers, absolutely. Will Ferrell's. Not out of place.
He-
Will Ferrell.
And what? Mom Spaghetti. That's a
Oh,
music industry.
Yeah, of course.
Feral dog. Imagine feral dog. It's a hot dog. You know, feral dog. It's feral dog, but it's Will Ferrell. Someone call him. This is a great idea.
Well, I
Oh,
think
man.
he probably got a ping because we mentioned Spirited. That's probably the first time that's ever been mentioned in a film podcast. I'd have to
Yeah,
Oh,
imagine.
he
sure,
did. Yeah. He did get
He probably has
I think
Google
so, too.
alerts.
Maybe we'll get a little check. Hey, we'll link our address down below. If you want to send us the equivalent of $2,000, which is what, $44,107, Will Ferrell, we would greatly appreciate it. I think get almost all of us out of student debt. So please
Yes,
do
I would.
that.
Yeah.
No, I
for
would also
sure.
love that. It's be a dream come true.
Life could be a dream.
So
You don't have the royalties. Damn it. Sorry.
Damn it. That's why we need that money. But
well,
We will put life is but a dream in our podcast if you send us the equivalent.
we'll go to court.
you think? Do you think Andy Hardy like if he was like alive, now, like what kind of music would he be into? Like, do you think he would like really fuck with like some like hip hop? Do you think he would
I
be like
think
into
Drake.
Yeah.
Drake for
I
sure.
think yeah, maybe like maybe some Post Malone. Maybe some.
But he's
real
more of a fan of the
fluctuation,
country era, not the
Yeah, the country era.
I would really
The first Beyonce album he'd listen to is the one releasing coming up, the Cowboy one.
Yeah, we'll be
Well,
the first people to edit together like an Andy Hardy, Post Malone, congratulations, like fan music video.
would he listen to this podcast? That I don't know.
I don't think
he's,
so.
He's definitely he's a Joe Rogan guy, I think.
Oh my
Oh
God.
no.
Well, we'll
Oh.
have to see. That's truly the ultimate goal of the podcast.
Yeah.
To see what type of man he would be in a current society, in our current
I wonder
society.
if with AI, if we could bring him back and then have him ask Andy Hardy who he'd listen to.
Maybe that could be the bonus episode once we get done. We'll
We'll
interview an
AI.
AI.
We don't approve the use of AI, with the exception of interviewing Andy Hardy.
Yeah.
That's the only.
Or we
only
could
way
just
I think we
hire
could use
an
AI.
Andy Hardy impersonator and just pretend that they're the
That'd be
real.
Yeah. There's probably like one guy that's like just waiting for the phone to ring. He's been like practicing like his entire life.
And he costs the equivalent to $2,000 in 1938 money.
Oh, yeah. Please, folks. Please. We're begging you.
Okay, guys, we got to wrap it up, I think.
Sorry.
No, this was a really good tangent, though. There were many good tangents in this episode that I really liked. but I guess next week we'll be covering two more Andy Hardy films, which would be 1939's The Hardys Ride High, directed by Guess Fulton.
Mr. Seats.
That's right. Yep. Another Seats joint. And then 1939's Andy Hardy Gets Spring Fever, directed by actually not George B. Seats, but W.S. Van Dyke, who is most famous for directing a few of the Thin Man movies.
Oh, great. So he's coming from
Interesting.
another great franchise.
Yeah. Another one that I'd really like to talk about, actually.
Have y'all seen the Thin Man movies?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen any.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I have. I've seen 3 of them. I haven't seen the last 2, but that might be a fun, maybe a little tangent that we can go on next week.
Yeah,
Is that noir?
like mystery movies. Right?
Okay.
Not really. They're kind of comedies.
Okay, cool.
They're fun. They're fun.
Well, all right. Until next time. Stay wavy.
Stay safe.
And keep on keeping on.
Mickey Rooney!
Hi, Millhouse. The studio sent me to talk to you, being a former child star myself, and the #1 box office draw from 1939 through 1940.
Wow, spanning 2 decades.